Party people, I am so excited to introduce you guys to my classmate from Howard, Charlie Lewis.
How you doing, people?
So Charlie and I have been friends since freshman year at Howard. And if you don't know, this is the real Uncle Charlie from the Hot series Forever. Charlie is near and dear to everybody's hearts. He's everybody's uncle. My kids, so many kids at Howard, all of our friends' kids. And it was so special to see him portrayed, to see you portray Charlie in Forever in such an authentic light. You truly are that person in real life. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview and share with the audience how this all came about, because I think it's so meaningful to our community, to our young people, to Black culture,
Hmm.
to what's happening today. It's so relevant. And the fact that Mara chose to have you in her show and
Yeah,
write you in was very deliberate, very intentional. I want to talk about it. So,
for sure.
first of all, how do you feel? How do you feel? And how did this come about? And I mean, I
Well,
want to know a lot, but how do you feel right now?
so I love you. You did in my heart. So I'm glad you invited me on to come and talk about that. And you know how much I love HU, and you know how much I love the kids. So first, Mara and I, we met through my good friend Rick Grant, and Rick introduced me to Mara about 15 years ago, and then we met briefly in New York, and then we actually met and spent time on the Vineyard. And spending time on the Vineyard with anybody is when you really can have real, true conversations with folks, because you're not rushing. You really have the time. You're not on the clock. You're not doing the deal or whatever the case may be. You can actually kick back, have a drink of wine, a glass of wine, smoke a cigar, whatever you like to do, and just really have true conversations. And when I met Mara, our spirits just collided, and it's been love ever since. And when she comes by the house, she's always like, "You in this damn Howard University, what is going on? What did they put in the water at Howard University?" And I'm like, "Girl, look, I'm from Statesboro, Georgia, small town. I went to Howard. Howard was When I was in Statesboro, I always knew there were more than just the 5 Black smart people in my AP classes. So I always knew that there were, and I was just trying to figure out, well, where were they? And it wasn't like I grew up in Atlanta, so I had no reference point, and I didn't have cousins in Atlanta, so I had no reference points to see a bigger audience of Black people. But when I got to Howard, I was just like, whoa, I was mind blown. So, and I went and got involved in everything: student government, the yearbook, the school of business. I did it all, but I still didn't do what I wish after the fact that I got into more, the Caribbean, that more of the diaspora, the African students, and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't get that opportunity, but hey, Howard gave me so much. And so it's just right for me to give so much back that gave me so much. And, when you got to Howard, you realized this was the first time you realized that all Black people were not monolithic. And that was really key and important to me. And so the love started there. And so she was just like, you know what? I love that, because I'm from LA. I really don't have that experience. And it's different if you grew up on the East Coast and the West Coast. And growing up on the West Coast, you just don't really have that constant Black experience unless you're from the Bay Area. And so that's what really sparked that
So
dialogue. And
she was curious, and
she was curious. And
I
ever
remember
since,
when we met freshman year.
yeah,
No, do you remember when we met? I don't know if you remember.
I do. We're going to bust the Six Flags.
Yeah, we were on the bus to King's Dominion, and
Dominion.
you were sitting right behind me.
You are aggressive, put it like that. And it
I
was
just
fun.
spoke my
But
mind.
all in good spirit.
Yeah.
But you knew what you wanted. That was the thing. You always knew what you wanted, and you just presented that way, and that's what I'm saying about not monolithic. You were really aggressive, and I was like, I like her, she's fun. I like her. She's aggressive.
Why does he have to use the word aggressive, party people? No, it was more like I was confident and I knew what I wanted. But I will say this, I did speak my mind. And the one thing about Howard that you learn is that you can't always speak your damn mind.
Yeah,
Sometimes you got to keep your mouth shut. And that's the beautiful thing about going to an HBCU, because you learn everything about all of yourself.
you do. And
Because
you
you are
learn.
fully integrated into the social experience,
Yes.
unlike going to a PWI.
Yeah. And you get really nurtured in that way. And people always have this conversation about PWI, HBCU. I'm here to say my family is 6 of us, and we all went to PWIs and HBCUs. Hampton, FAM, Howard, Savannah State, American, Emory, University of Georgia, West Georgia, ITC, you name it, we went there. University of Texas, you went there. So we got a balance of everything to compare, because people always say, well, the HBUC experience isn't right for everybody. You're right, but there are 103 HBCUs. There's one there that's right for you. You just have to do the work and be intentional.
Yeah. The one thing I will say too, me going to Howard and Jason going to a PWI and me going to Howard, it just played out so clearly. We would move to a new city. We've moved 8 times as a married couple. We'd move to a new city. I automatically had community, because what did I do? Call up Howard people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Anytime there was anything that I needed, call up my Howard crew. It was just
Right.
very different. And
Yeah.
because my kids did not go to an HBCU,
Mm-hmm.
we were very intentional about the Vineyard, and we were very intentional about Jack and Jill, and we were very intentional about a lot of things, because I was like, if you're not going to go to an HBCU, then what you are going to do is get a proper Black experience, because we're not
Right.
going to have any craziness out here in these streets. That is
Exactly.
what I was very intentional about, and we have never missed a summer on the Vineyard since we've started going.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Now that we've
Yeah.
beaten that horse, let's get into it. So
Yeah.
you met Mara. You guys met at the Vineyard. Well, you met her years ago in LA,
Yeah,
but then
we met years ago in LA, and then we met in the Vineyard, and then we really spent
bonded
time.
at the Vineyard.
But when she came up with Forever, this happened about 4 years ago, right before. So it was right during COVID. Yeah, so 2020, she got the deal with Netflix, and she said, I got a deal with Netflix. I'm going to write Forever, and I'm going to put you in it. And I was like, what? So at first I thought she was saying she was going to put me actually in it, So I was like, okay, girl, whatever, let's go, And then COVID happened. And then with COVID happening, that delayed her production with doing the work. And then the strike in LA happened.
Oh,
So
that's
that
right.
further
I forgot
delayed,
about that.
yeah, yeah. So that further delayed the work, because it's hard to shoot in LA, and she shot in LA, and she shot in the Vineyard. And the reason why, and it's hard to shoot in the Vineyard, but
Uh-huh.
she shot in every town: Oak Bluff, Aquina, Chilmark, and
Oh,
Edgarstown.
Edgartown. She did the Vineyard right. That was a gift to the Vineyard. It was
Yes,
the
it was.
first proper Vineyard scenario that we have seen.
Yes, and with the imagery, the cinematography of them sitting, just remember her, Jason, and the young lady sitting on the beach with the fog, and then with the night and the sunset and everything. I mean, she captured every moment and made you. She just put you back into
Oh
the
my
video.
gosh. I've watched that episode so many times. Even how we go to Menemsha and clap for the sunset. She didn't miss anything. All
She
the
did.
photos, everybody's hugging on each other, all the
Yes,
moments, all the proper experiences.
she did.
She
She
even
got it
had
right.
Fat Ronnie's. My kids were like, did you see Fat Ronnie's?
She did every Black business that she could possibly put on the market. She did everything with intention. And that's what I loved about her as
It
well.
was so
What a
good.
lot of people need to know on your podcast is that Mara is the way it all came about is that every time me and Mara would get together, we would go in the Vineyard. She has her 2 sons and her husband, and then I have my family, or either I'm there with my friends. So I'm either there with my family members, or I'm with the HU crew. And when we get together, we get to the Vineyard, but we have one day where we go and we just spend time together. And so we would go to our little taco stand in Edgartown, and we would sit and we would eat tacos and drink and catch up and just spend, 6, 7 hours together that day. And when we start talking, we just start really divulging everything. And she's like, wait a minute, Charlie, you dropping gems. I got to tape you. And boop, she pulls out the tape. And that's what she would do. She would just start pulling out the tape and
And did you
taping.
know that she was recording you for the show at this
Not at
point?
all. Not at all. Not at all. Not even
So she
knowing
would
what
just record you talking.
just Yeah, she would just record you. She said, "I love what you're saying. You spit the facts. You like everything that you're saying. I love it." And she would just record me. So I never knew that all my words would then show up on the big screen. So when I saw it, because she did give me a peek or a
But she
preview,
did tell you. She told you were going to be in there.
she told me I was going to be there. I didn't know how it was going to show up. I didn't know what it was going to
Did she
be.
tell you which actor?
No, she didn't tell me anything. Nothing. Like I
And
was totally.
what I love too is she said Uncle Charlie, which is everybody calls you Uncle Charlie. She didn't even change the name.
I know. I know. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I am like captured. She captured all my words and they're up there. And I'm like, wow.
How did that
I
make
was
you feel?
completely overwhelmed. I cried several times because it's one thing when you do speak to kids and you see them understand and take it in and respond to you. It's different when your peer group, people your age group, respond different. Because, we've had a life, right? We're in our 50s. Some of us we know are in the 60s, 40s, whatever. We're cross generational. But when someone your peer group, actually you understand that that person is listening to what you're saying and then actually saying that what you are saying is important for community. And therefore, I feel as though I need to share that with the masses. And I have the vehicle to do that. So to know that someone took my words, put them on script, acted it out to share with 300 million streamers of Netflix globally. So Uncle Charlie now is known globally around the world. And so it was, you know, I
It's a
mean, it
beautiful
makes me
thing.
think now, like, whoa, it's
It's
big.
a beautiful thing. And
It
your
is.
words matter, Charlie. They matter.
Yes.
And let's talk about those words.
And I think what she realized, how you meet, when someone you meet for the first time, you show
Uh-huh.
up, you're trying to see if they're bringing the imposter you or the real you. And you know me, every time I've been the what? Same person since you met me
Since
in
freshman
1985.
year.
Yes. And so I haven't changed in that way. And so when she kept meeting me, because think about it, Mara's in entertainment. She meets a lot of people. But when you meet someone and you realize this person is the same, and every year our relationship got stronger and stronger and stronger, and our bond got stronger and stronger and stronger. And what a lot of people don't know, Salim, her husband, is very private, very private. He wanted to buy in the Vineyard, so that's how they got to the Vineyard, because that was his writing sanctuary. New York is her writing sanctuary. And so when they got to the Vineyard, Salim stays in the house. He does not come out. I'm the only person that can make him come out. So he will only come to my house in the
I
Vineyard.
love it.
And that is so the dynamics of me being integrated into their family and with Uncle Ricky and our friendship it's been
That's
beautiful. But
special.
yeah, but I'm like that with your family. I'm like that with a lot of people's
Yeah.
families. I'm just that uncle. So that go
I've
around
got to
and
tell you all something about Charlie. So my kids are on the Vineyard. I think they're in elementary school, walking down the street, probably on Circuit Ave, and who pops up and says to them, "Who are your parents? I know you. You look familiar. Who are your parents?" Who? Charlie, Uncle Charlie, right away saw them on the street on Circuit Ave. My kids came back and said, "We met one of your Howard friends, you and your Howard University friends. We met Charlie." I died. I don't think I had even seen you yet that summer.
right. Yes.
But
Yes.
they of course you've been endearing Uncle Charlie ever since, keeping it real. One time, party people, I wasn't even home. Charlie walks into our
Your
house
house.
at the Vineyard, at one of the houses that we were renting at the Vineyard, and kids were everywhere doing
Oh,
everything.
yes.
And Charlie
And I
walked
walked.
in and goes, "Oh, what are we doing here? I see what Charlie, what?" Those were the high school days.
Yes, yes. They were getting
Crazy
it in.
times,
Bradford was getting it in. I love it. Yes.
fun
But
times. And now they're
but there
all
was
grown and working.
it's so amazing how when they say time waits on no one, time waits on no one. Because it mean we were really just 35, 20 years ago. But like where did 20 years went by so fast. And now to see your kids grow, to see your kids matriculate through college, to see them working in New York and living their life and doing the best, doing what they want to do. And as they say, walk out on the other side, look back at their experience and just realize, wow, time waits on no one. But you
It
did
really
such a great
doesn't.
job. You and Jason did such a great job with your kids. And I love
Thank you,
Bradley and
Charlie.
Jason.
It was intentional and it was curated.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I mean, we were very intentional. My son has never missed a Howard homecoming since high school because,
Mhm.
even though he didn't go to Howard, sometimes he wishes, he had a
Yeah.
little piece of Howard, maybe a semester of Howard, but he's going to get it in when he can. So he never misses homecoming. And of course, my kids have never missed the Vineyard. And I think it's really intentional as Black families,
Hmm.
as parents of Black children, especially when they are in these all white environments, to
Hmm.
make sure they are clear, comfortable, happy about
Nurture.
who they are,
Yep.
and have a proper Black community,
Right.
and which includes all of our extended family, really pouring
Yes.
into our children, especially in these times. And I want to talk about some of the words that you were using, some of your quotes, because it was so powerful. So when the son, which I recall you saying something similar to me on Facebook, but when Justin, when Dawn was
Uh-huh.
talking about Justin walking onto the basketball team at Northwestern, and you said everyone needs to go to an HBCU, what were you thinking? And you've said that to a lot of people. You've said that to a
Yeah.
lot of people's children.
Well, why I find that is because when you are as strong as my family upbringing is, it's six of us and my
Mm-hmm.
mother and father in Georgia, Statesboro, Georgia.
Yep.
But they were they were involved in the community, civic, social, political environment, right? My
Right.
sisters were older than I. And I remember when I came home, when my sister came home and I was applying to schools, my sister said, "Where are you applying?" And I said, "University of Georgia, Auburn." She said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You're not doing that. I did that. If you don't apply to Morehouse, Howard, and Hampton." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I didn't know."
That's
And
a
I went
proper
to
big
Morehouse.
sister, though. She said, I did
Yes.
that. I want different for you.
Exactly. She said, and I went to Morehouse and I realized, ooh, I said Atlanta, that's 3 hours away. My mama check up on me. I don't want that. And it was too small. And then I went to Howard in April, and we know what an April day in Howard brings on the yard. That was it.
That was it.
It was it. I never got to Hampton. And
Yep.
so it was HU all day. And so what I meant by that is, and then I went to the University of Texas for my MBA. And what I realized, it was a class of 500. There were 25 Hispanics and there were 25 Blacks. And there were 450 whites. And nobody wanted to collaborate with you. And what I also noticed was how the Black people who came from HBCUs at the University of Texas congregated with each other in the beginning. And the Blacks that went to PWI's undergraduate sat aside, and then they did not come together with the other Blacks. And I noticed that immediately. And I was just like, why are they afraid of the other Blacks? And it really dawned. And then I was like, okay, where did you go to school? And they, University of Illinois, this one, that's one, Wisconsin. And I was just like, they're not used to community. And so I saw
And they were
that.
uncomfortable. They probably had that whole cafeteria thing. Why are all the Black people sitting together at the cafeteria? That's a
Exactly.
shame. That's a
And
damn
so
shame.
the thing is, and I don't know, that could be one of the experiences, right? And I'm not trying to really put, because everybody is like, oh, we need to get off this PWI HBCU thing. But I just try to tell it from my position. And what I saw was the nurturing environment in the community that we shared. We automatically clicked, automatically formed groups, automatically had study groups together, and we were off to the races. And we were like, well, if you want to join, you can join. But if you don't, then that's your business, right?
So what
But
happened
what
in
I
the end?
know, yeah, but what I noticed is that all of us were doing extremely well. We moved forward. We went on with our lives, but then we never connected after the fact. And I don't have a community by going to the University of Texas. I have about 4 or 5 people that's in my life from the University of Texas from those 2 years that I was there. And I laugh at that because I'm like, I stayed there for 2 years and I only have 5 people that I speak to. Well, I went to Howard for 4 years and I probably have over 2,000 people that I see and know in my life that come across. And it's just such that difference because you want an environment where you can have a community, you can have a network, and then you can extend that network in your life and it's going to be family. Like you said, when you move from Chicago to Houston to Connecticut, different life, you already plugged in, already connected, knew where to go get your hair done, knew where to
Two
go to
seconds.
church,
2
knew where to
seconds.
boom, 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 and it was already in and boom.
Done.
So I love that. And I think it gives you that confidence when you walk into that boardroom or whatever environment that you need with your head up high, not worried about them thinking you're a DEI hire, you
Yep.
were here on affirmative action or whatever. You never second guess yourself. You walk in with confidence. So, and there are people that go to PWIs, have a great background, have a good, I'm not negating that, but I just see where
That you see that as a
HBCU.
preference. My
Yeah.
grandfather said the same thing because I come from a family of Howard, Spelman, and Morehouse. That was, and my
Mhm.
dad went to Lincoln, but Howard for dental school, and it was the same thing in my family. It was like,
Yeah.
this is where you're going to have your lifelong friends. These are the people who are going to be in your wedding. These are going to be the people who are going to be your kids' aunties and uncles. You want to go to an HBCU. So I told my kids, you either go to a top 10 school or you're going to Howard, Spelman, or Morehouse, period.
Right.
So they're,
Period.
they made their decision and they're fine because I made sure they were fine. And so did
Exactly.
Jason. Okay. So I want to talk about there's a scene when you're on the beach and Forever.
Yeah.
And Justin's sitting there with all of you guys, which is what we do. Everyone's sitting out drinking their wine. And then
Hmm.
Keisha walks up.
Right.
And then, of course, Justin says, Mom, is it okay if we go sit over here? And then you say, Dawn, you know they're going to do it. And then you talk about her being blackety black.
Right. Right.
I think you say that. Don't you say that?
No, not well. In that particular scene, I just say they're gonna do it. Which, in actuality, we were already late because they had
Right.
already
They had
did
already done it.
it.
But
So
is there at one point, do you say blackety black or is it just Dawn that says it?
that was Don. That was Don in the house when she was in the
Right.
house and when she was talking at that point in time. She said, "Blackly black." When they walked up and I was like,
She
"Don,
said,
hey,
Keisha. She
Keisha."
said, Keisha, black Keisha.
Yeah, that was funny. But that was episode 2 or 3 though. I think when she was trying to identify who Keisha was, because then that's when she was warming up to it. Like, oh my god! And I love that the fact that she wanted a black girlfriend, but yet he was in white environments. So she was happy on one end, but yet she was putting him in a situation that was not really benefiting him to the point where he was around other things to be able to meet a black girl. But
Well, yes, she did because he went to the Vineyard. She was supplementing like I
well,
was.
that was what yeah, she did supplement that part. But then that's what she said, I've spent all this money on these kids coming up here. It ain't easy,
Yes,
and it's
it's
not
not.
easy, but you have to
Right.
be
It's
intentional.
not. But you know what I've noticed, Charlie, and I think that's really interesting. So, as a matchmaker and dating coach, I
Mhm.
have so many clients who come to me and they say, I really need for you to help my daughter. I really need for you to match my daughter. I want you to introduce my daughter. And I say, sure. What about your son? Oh, and I say, what do you mean?
Would they give up
Either
on their son?
the son is dating outside of the race. And I said, "Oh, so you don't have the same expectations for your son." And
Wow.
a lot of times they say, "I don't want to lose my son."
Well, I
That's his choice. And that is a red flag.
yeah,
How as a parent, let alone a community, are we okay with our black sons dating outside the race, but you want me to find someone for your black daughters? One of the things that I noticed when I launched Dottie is so many of my Jewish sisters, Indian sisters, and white friends, quite frankly, were
mhm.
like, you all should have been doing this a long time ago because we unapologetically date each other. Why are you all not unapologetically dating each other? How did all of a sudden it become okay for our black men to start dating outside the race and not uplifting our black queens? I just find it so crazy. It's very disappointing to me that we're as parents, and I know you're an uncle, but you do take the role of having these difficult conversations with so many of your nieces and nephews that you help raise,
Yeah.
that we aren't having the hard conversations with our children.
No.
Um, that is why I honestly feel so many of our young people are struggling when it comes to dating and relationships. The parents have not had the conversations and also have not created space for their children to come to them to have conversations. And also, expectations haven't been set. If
Right.
you've got an expectation that your child performs well in school, you should also have the same expectation as other cultures do, that be intentional about finding your happily ever after. And oh, by the way, I would like for that person to look like me. That's
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. When growing up, when my mom and dad were busy because they ran their business, and they were all hands on it. My mom and dad worked together. So they were together for 65 years.
Wow. What kind of business did they have?
We had 9 different businesses growing up. We had a used car lot, we had a moving van lines, we had rental properties, we had a barber shop, we had a body shop, we had a
Wow.
health food store. What else did we have? Storage warehouses. And so I worked in all of those. Okay. It was after school, you come home or to the store. Which one are we good? You have to ask every time you left. And it was
Are you
like,
serious?
yes. And if you went to the store, you never knew what you were going to do. You might have had to work in the store from 3:30 when you got there off the school bus until 11 o'clock and closed at night. Ringing up. I did my homework. I would be ringing you up. Hey Miss Arvia, and I would ring you up, and then I would put my books on the counter and I would study. That's how I
Wow.
grew up. And so my mom saw my life every day. I saw my dad every day. So I was in that environment every day with my parents. I got to see how my parents reacted to the community. I saw when my mom left me at the store to go run and do a club meeting or go to the church and have meeting. I saw everything in there. Like when I was the last one coming in, because by the time they got to me, the sixth child, they were tired. They gave me the car. I was the personal assistant. I used to go get clothes for my mom. I was her personal shopper. Go get clothes, bring them back to the store. I used to go pay the bills. I used to do everything. I was grown at 10.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
excuse me, in the 10th grade. I did it all, but I was in a smaller environment, small town, 30,000, 40,000 people. But still, the mere fact that I had all that responsibility. And so what I see today is that kids just don't know they don't have that responsibility. And then my saving grace, because yes, growing up in all of that, I still needed an outlet. I had an aunt. My aunt Essie was my outlet who told me and showed me the way. She was the one that took me to the University of Georgia. She the one that took for Minority Day to see University. She the one that took me to Morehouse. She stepped in the gap. I used to ride with her. She was the first ordained minister in the state of Georgia,
Wow.
female. And
Wow.
I used to ride with her to different churches just to get away from that environment of my mother. Because sometimes I needed my own peace. And she was my voice of reason, of making the decision and talking to me. She would say, she would say, Charlie Jr., what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? Where are you? Do you want to do this football thing? Do you want to play basketball? I see you in all these different sports. What do you want to do? And I'd be like, I don't know, Aunt Essie. What if da 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 da? Dad wants me to work in the store and come back and run all these businesses. But I don't really want to do that. Fast forward, my mom, who would be 93 if she was living today, God rest her soul. 95, excuse me. 95 today if she was living today. I was 25 years old. I just came from the University of Texas getting my MBA. I was home. Moms have this way of knowing their children. She looked at me and she said to me, son, this is not your life. This is your father's life. Go live. He had to provide this life to provide for the family and you. Go live your life. How mind blown at 25 and how progressive I realized. My mom was born in 1930. How progressive of a statement that
So
was.
progressive. So you were planning on coming home from your
I was the
MBA.
struggle. It was the struggle of
Wow.
coming home and taking over a business that I didn't want and living my life. And this is where parents get involved in their kids' life, and that right there is the reason why I talk to kids all the time, because I know that there's that parent and the kid might be struggling to say, I want to do this, but the parent is like, I want you to do this. And whose life is it? Whose life is it? It's the person's life. And there are times in life where you have to be selfish and you can't give to others. You got to do for you. And my mom gave me that freedom. And when she gave me that freedom, I want everybody else to have that freedom to be able to make their own decisions, because it is a tug of war sometimes. You do want your kids to do better, but yet that might not be the best for that particular kid.
Which
And
was so
sometimes,
great what we saw in Forever.
yeah, and sometimes
Because Dawn was not happy. She was not
exactly.
happy. He
But
said, I want to make beats.
people from the outside, this is where Uncle Charlie came in. People from the outside can see your life better than when you sometimes in it. And so what she was doing, she was so, as she said, my parenting style is catastrophic, you know. And Eric Wood Harris over there, he being Mr. Calm Man,
He
you
was such
know,
a great dad.
was just that. So what a lot of people need to know and understand for your audience is that life is Mara and Salim and Yasim and Nasir. That is her actual kids. So Justin is Yasim and Jaden is Nasir and
Wow.
Wood Harris, Eric is Salim, and she is actually chaotic Don. And so it's about how they parent their kids and how they
How
work.
old are their kids now?
So Yasim is 21 and he's at NYU doing music, and his music is in episode 4.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And Nasir is in going to the 11th grade, and he is a baseball star. He really is
Oh,
good.
he really is a baseball
He
star.
is a really good baseball star, yes, and he is really good. And he is probably going to like Vanderbilt, Florida State, those good
Wow. To play
baseball schools,
baseball.
because he is really good. Now, he is the one that would go to Howard if he wasn't playing baseball.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
because
very
now
cool.
Mara understands the HBCU thing, and she knows that that particular kid right there would be, and so the Forever was a homage and a love letter to her son Yassine, who has ADHD.
ADHD.
Yeah,
So many kids do have it.
yeah, yeah. So
And so, so many kids, I'm sure, saw themselves on screen. What was so crazy to me is my son was making beats in high school. My
uh-huh,
son went to Duke making beats. We had those very similar conversations around beats.
right.
So it's fascinating. The parenting in Forever, the hard conversations that the characters were having with each other, whether it was Keisha and Justin,
Hmm.
or Dawn
Hmm.
and Justin, or
And
Justin with his father, or
yeah,
Keisha with her mother.
I love
Phenomenal.
And I love the dynamic that Mara had with the family. It was never about socioeconomics. It was
Never.
about Keisha being smart and being the girl that when Don and them knew she was the one who was she was very headstrong. She knew exactly what she wanted. She was determined, and she was going about that. And I love that allowed, and that was the young lady that they knew from a relationship that they had in the past in elementary school as they grew
Oh, was
up.
that real life?
Uh, Somewhat, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it was never an issue. But Mara grew up in that neighborhood of where Keisha was, around the corner, around the block, in Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights, all of that. If you know anything about LA, below the 10 is where all the African Americans live in
And
LA.
that's where
So
Mara grew up.
yeah, and that's where she grew up. She grew up right down the street. So it was a love letter to her son. It was a love letter to LA, and it allowed people to see LA in a different light, and she did it too. And it's very expensive to shoot in LA, like I was saying before.
It was beautiful. It was so well done. What would you like to see in season 2?
Well, I think I
If
don't
you
know
had your dream,
if
if you
I had
had your
my dream,
wish.
because I don't know what she's gonna do. But I
Right.
know Mara, she's great at developing characters. Number one, this can go either way. I definitely think that you'll see Keisha at Howard. I think you'll see Justin making his way and deciding what he's going to do. He'll figure it out over the course of the year. So I think you'll see that. I think you'll see her coming home during break and them getting together
Yes.
and
Yes,
trying to
that's what
see
I want
if
to
there's
see.
yeah, if there's
Yes.
anything there. But I also think that she might then raise up Jaden and it becomes a story about Jaden and whatever his love life is and what his language is. I think you'll see more of some of the characters like Uncle Charlie. That's what I would love to see.
Of
Come back
course.
in and do a little bit more.
Everybody
Um,
loves Uncle Charlie online. Everybody's
yeah,
talking about Uncle Charlie online. Everybody says we need an Uncle Charlie in our life.
we do. You do. You do. You need a Uncle Charlie or Auntie Arvia in your life, giving it to you real and
You
letting
stay
you know.
parenting. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember when I saw you just last summer on the Vineyard, we were sitting at Lookout Tavern and Bradley was sitting at the table with her then boyfriend and you came over, you were dropping dime then. I mean, dropping nuggets. You were
yeah,
parenting, you were uncling at that point at that moment for about 30 minutes. You had
exactly.
just gotten off the ferry.
I know. Said, who are you? What you doing? Who your people?
But everybody needs an
because,
Uncle
because
Charlie.
you know what? Sometimes you have to ask the question that everybody else might be afraid to ask. And I'll ask the question, who are you? Like, what are you about? I want to see, the personality because I want to see, and, for me, I'm looking at the kids and I'm laughing and I'll do it. And I'll do it in a way where people really don't even know. Like, I'm not going to come across harsh. I'm not like, some people online were like, Uncle Charlie was harsh and he was bitter and he was hateful. I don't see that part. But anyway, I think that's just where the person sits. But the bottom line for me, the real Uncle Charlie, it's the way you ask the question when you don't even know you've been asked a question. And that's the thing of how you get information. Because one, I'm a realtor. So I ask questions when people don't even know what I'm a trip. I know what I'm trying to achieve. See, I have a goal when I meet people. That's the thing. I have a mission when I meet you. I'm trying to figure out the person. So I know how to ask you things and you don't even think about it and you won't even think like, and all of a sudden I'll walk away and you'll be like, I just told that man everything about my life. I don't even believe, how did he do that? And that's what I will do. And so it's an art to that. But I learned that also, Arvia, by watching my father growing up.
Mm.
He used to say to me, watch this. And he would go and he would have a conversation with somebody and he'd be like, boop, 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 boop. He say, see, I got my information. I know exactly what I need to do and move on. And I was like, boy, he is amazing.
So, Uncle Charlie,
Yes.
what do you see in real life relative to the way we are moving as a community in this era that we're living in? What advice do you have to young people, to my audience that, they're looking for love, they're driving their careers, they're trying to figure those out. Most of them, have spent a lot of time on their education, but it's challenging. And the one thing I love about Forever is it really talks about the importance of communicating, knowing how
Oh,
someone makes you feel. I love
ooh.
how Justin said, I feel calm around you. I said, if he don't, oh my gosh, when Mara wrote in some gems, basically, he was saying, you calm my nervous system down.
hmm
You're the
And
only
what?
thing, I think he said something like, you're the only thing that's calm to me right now.
Yeah, because he was living with Don, and she said it. I have a very catastrophic lifestyle, parenting style. So
Chaotic.
it was just like this in his ear on this side. And Keisha came with and just brought it down. And the dad
And
was there too. So it was a good balance with them in the house. But then
yes,
when he left and him being unsure of himself at the time, he was just trying to do the best that he could do, with what he had at the time. And you remember when she said to him, we had a plan. I love that part.
yeah.
We had a plan. You're going to stick to that plan. He was like, okay, I'm going to stick to that plan. But Keisha came and Keisha was like, well, I know what I need to do because I can't make a mistake. And I love the fact that when the Nike trainer that Christian was able to get for her and she was able to work out, and the Nike trainer said, well, I can make you, Howard has a track program, but it's not a good program. And she said, I'm not going to Howard for that. I'm going to Howard because I see myself in the C-suites. She was
Exactly.
undetermined, undeniable,
She's
undeterred.
like, don't tell me. She was
No,
focused.
she was.
So on that note, when I say about our young people and
Mhm.
what do you see, this is a nice segue because Keisha made Justin's life better. Did you see how he performed at that game? And he
Oh
started
yeah.
getting his work done, got his
Oh,
essays turned in, and that's what happens though when you have a black
oh,
girlfriend. Okay?
exactly. And that's what
Someone
happens when
in
you
your
have.
life that's going to ride or die for you.
Yes. And I think what people need to understand, and it's about any partnership that you have, you need somebody that's going to uplift you and show the better side of you, know how to pull parts of you that you might not, don't even know you possess out of you. You should be
Say it
looking
again
for
for the people in the back.
you need someone that's going to pull the best parts out of you. You don't need anybody that's suppressing you. If you're with
Or
someone,
someone who's going to keep you on the same level.
exactly, you want to grow because life changes.
What did
And what
Justin's dad say? What did Justin's dad say? You got to go through the fire, son.
you gotta go through the fire. And what I love what his dad said to him when he couldn't figure it out, his dad said, "Son, it's simple. Communicate. Talk to her. Simple shit." And I love that. I was like, simple shit. And it was basically like, just go. How many opportunities in the black community do we miss because of simple shit? We don't communicate. We don't tell our feelings because we're too macho. This
And that's
guy,
the problem with these young people. They're so
yeah,
afraid of rejection.
is so afraid of rejection. And
Makes me sad.
the thing is, social media really has done it's a blessing and a curse. The
It's a
curse
curse.
part of it is the development of the mind, the development of the self, the development of you in an environment that's free and clear of the noise for you trying to keep up because you're too young to know what life is, trying to keep up with all these things that social media keep feeding you. And it's a time and a place to understand things in your life. College is a time for you to go, a place for you to go and get nurtured and to wean yourself off of your parents. Parents need to know that they are a launching pad, not a landing pad. A
Say it
launching
again for the
pad,
people in the back.
not
Say it
a
again.
they are a launching pad, not a landing pad. You do not want your kids to be with you all of their life because of your loneliness. You do not want your kids to be with you in your life because of your loneliness and your mistakes that you made. Let them go. They will come back. When you launch them, they will go out in their. This is the trajectory of life, as we know. 18 to 21, they're figuring out who they are. They're away from mom and dad. They're trying to develop relationships with their friends. They're getting involved in things that they did in school. They might even just be taking a break because they were in such a stressful environment when they were in school that now it's a time where they can just be and try to really figure themselves out. And then they know, okay, I got to graduate. Then they launch into the world, whether they either go to grad school or they go and work in the workforce. The time in their 20s from 21, 22 to 30, they're really trying to figure out their identity away from the parents. Then when they get in their 30s, they are proud and realize, you know what? I thought I knew what I was doing when I was 28, and I realized I don't. And now I'm in my 30s. I'm really starting to figure this thing called life out. And I done had a couple of relationships. I've had a couple of heartbreaks, a
Prayerfully,
couple of
prayerfully,
prayerfully, yes.
prayerfully.
I had a couple of breaks. And now in my 30s, I'm ready to develop a family and everything. And then they come back to the family because then they see the purpose of family. But it takes you a while to go out and get your own independence and gain that.
You're making a
Or,
really good point about creating space.
yeah.
And
And then you can,
I parents need, yeah, there's an opportunity. And I don't want to keep getting on parents because there's parents that do great job, that do a
yeah,
very good job. But we do need to make sure that there is space that is created to let our kids grow and space that's created to let our kids fail.
exactly. Let's
I'd
say,
rather my kids fail while I'm here on earth than
there
have
you
them
go.
fail when I'm gone.
There you go. There you go.
And that may happen too, but they
And
will have already developed the resilience and the
to
tools needed
there you
because
go.
life is hard.
And the thing is, you can't do everything. You can't protect your kid. Kids need emotion. They need sadness. They need grief. They need heartbreak. They need love. They
All
need
the things.
happiness. They need joy. And what I see our generation doing, we went through all of we didn't get a lot of the emotional support that because our parents came out of the silent generation. They were just trying to survive. They were
They
just
were working.
they were working. They didn't have time to be like, oh, you need mental health day? What's that? They were not doing that. And now we're trying to overcorrect. And there's a balance of tough love parenting of the old and new way of parenting of the new. And I think it's in the middle. You got to be
Which
able
again, why
to.
I can really relate to Dawn's character, and I guess the chaotic parenting. I will call it proper parenting
Right.
because she was so hard on him, on Justin, because
Hmm.
she was afraid. She didn't want her son to be a statistic. She
Exactly.
she was like, we cannot do this. We work too hard. Life is hard.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to have to deal with hard things. So
Yeah.
I could relate to Dawn in so many ways. That was
Yeah, no, I think everybody could. I think what the thing about Forever that was just so poetic and so good to make people go back and watch it 2 and 3 times because you started seeing yourself some way along the line, whether it was Justin, whether you were Keisha, whether you were Keisha's mom, whether you were Don, whether you were Eric, whoever, Uncle Charlie, whatever, you
George.
started to identify. Yeah, you started identifying and you went back to your life and you said, oh my God, I didn't get this, or I did get this, or you thought about that first love, or you even thought about currently right now how you're parenting your kids and how tough it is, or you thought
Truly.
about how, God, I wish I had given this, and it's not too late.
It's not too late. But can we talk about the condom scene?
Ooh, love that. Can we talk? I
Can we
love
talk
that.
about a proper parenting scene? He said, son, and then he was like, see, dad? And he was like, no, we're not
Oh,
finished here. Turn those lights off.
pull that curtain together.
Party people.
Yes,
That scene right there.
that
Proper parenting.
he was like, oh, see, it's not so easy in the dark. But the words that came after that, the words were, no, I know your intention of why you're going over there, but it's not what you intend. But it might not. You might not end up doing what you intended on doing.
Right,
And,
exactly.
and
Because you will get a feeling. I remember my mom used to say, I know you don't understand it now before I went to Howard. She's like, but you're going to get a feeling. And sometimes you can't control those feelings. So you need to
right
be responsible.
there, you go. And
And
so,
and I kept it 100% with my kids and with Bradley too. I'd say, Bradley, trust me.
mhm.
These men out here, they're going to say, let me just put it in, just the tip.
Oh,
Just the tip.
ooh.
I said,
But
I
let's talk
said,
about that. Let's talk
yeah,
about
let's talk about it.
let's talk about the fact that Keisha father came in at the right time with whatever relationship and their dynamics there, and I think you'll understand more of that dynamic in season two.
Season two. Yeah.
I hate when people say, well, how she just let him come in her life and just take over and whatever the case may be.
He
If
didn't take over.
he didn't take over, what he provided was, and what he did in the relationship, you could tell that was another one of those scenes where I hate when you have to, some people in the comment section, you have to spoon feed them that everybody in that house, in that scene when she was having that party for her, knew who he was and allowed him to speak because
Because he had been coming in and out of their hair life for a minute. He traveled for work. Read the room, party people.
exactly, and I'm like, I wouldn't have let him speak like that to my kid, and then I'm like, y'all are missing so much. They need a Tyler Perry movie to tell everything in the season one. I mean, in episode one, it kills me. It's just like, can't you read and understand that the man came in and you want someone? What he provided to her was the ability, and they had their own special relationship. They took the pictures of wherever they were. She let him know she understood why her father and her grandfather, and then
Had
the
the
reason
rub, and
had the
that was
regret.
articulated so clearly.
Yeah. And then
And
the
she really understood it too.
yeah, and the grandfather, I love how he stepped in the gap
Yep, he
and
stepped in
took
because
her.
you know why he stepped in the gap? And this is why the writing was so good. The writing was so good. He stepped in the gap because he knew what he had done to his son. He knew that he had told his son, "You are not going to the major, son. You're going to go to college." That didn't happen for him. George was like, "This is now my responsibility. I have to own part of the reason why my son is not around. So
Exactly.
I will 100% be there for my grandbaby." Ooh,
Exactly.
that writing was good. You better preach.
And that right there was like key and instrumental. And when you go back and you look at it, it's the simplicity of certain scenes. People need to go, like you
But
have to
go
watch.
back to when I was talking about the tip, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you were talking
So,
about
so then yeah.
at the party.
So the dad said to her at that time, "Hey, we need to don't be, don't let this boy come in your life and derail your plan. Make sure that you always keep your focus on
Right.
yourself." So then fast forward, next scene, they go and have the party over at the house doing Christmas, and they're in the pool, and everybody leaves to go down the street, and Justin is all chaotic in the head, not knowing what he want to do, and Keisha's over there, and of course now by this time they are having sex, but he was like, yo, 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 they're in the pool, I could just let me stick it in, just let me stick the tip in. And she was like, "Oh hell no!" She got up. She heard that
It's time for me to
conversation.
go home.
It's
It's
time
time
for
for me
me
to
to
go.
go.
Let me tell you, Charlie, right there.
That
The
yeah,
writing, and the dad, the parenting, he set it up so nicely because he knew what was coming around that corner. He
yes.
said, because he knew Justin didn't know what he really wanted to do. He
It-
asked him some questions. Maybe it was a little harsh, but it was the truth. It was the truth. So then fast forward to the pool scene. Oh my gosh. I'm
and
just
see,
connecting those dots.
see, and see, the thing
I'm
is,
just connecting those dots.
there it is. And so the bottom line
Bam.
is that is why, as a parent, and I tell all parents out here, talk to your kids, repeat the story over and over and over. So when they are faced with the situation in front of
It's going to
them,
come up.
that everything that you told them that was back here is gonna come right here. And I remember how my dad used to tell stories on repeat, and I'd be like, after a while, it's just like, oh my God, I can't
Here we
with this
go
guy.
again.
And then when I got to Howard, we were leaving the clubhouse one night on a Friday and going back down Georgia Avenue, and some guys asked to get in the car, and I can hear my dad, "You don't know those people. Don't get in the car with those people you don't know. You don't know what they got in that car." And those guys got in trouble because they had marijuana in the car.
Wow.
And everything that my dad said to me came right here to the front of my head. And then I realized he was setting me up for life, and that all the stories. So you have to repeat the conversations with your kid. You have to have conversations with your kid, even when they don't want to talk about it. You have to go and sit in their room at the edge of the bed and say, "Hey, what's going on in your life? What's happening? How you feeling? You okay? What's going on in school? How your friends? What's going on with your friends? What's going on with them friends of yours? What's
You
the
always got to
situation?"
ask about those friends. This weekend, I'm having a house full. Both of my kids are coming home with friends. So I love
Yeah,
it when they come home, but I also love when they come home with friends because you get
yeah.
all the tea.
And the good part is it's a safe space. You get to
Yes.
ask questions, how you ask
Yes.
questions. You get to
Yes.
see really what's going on with that little
Yeah.
Jimmy. you know,
Yes.
you get to see that little Jimmy. You have to be like, y'all don't know about that little Jimmy. You got to watch that Jimmy. That little Jimmy is a troublemaker. But
Exactly.
the thing is, what you said to that was when the dad came in and when the dad had that real heart to heart conversation with Justin, he was trying to figure out, well, you gonna play beats? Well, what are you gonna do? What blah, 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 blah. And he was asking those questions because he needed to know what type of man that was going to be interested in his daughter. And he knew his daughter had
Exactly.
a plan. And he knew he had a plan in life too, but he let his daddy get in the way of that plan and derail
Exactly.
that plan. So he didn't want that same life for his daughter. And so
Oh,
he was
so
the
good.
person that was in front of his daughter making a wrong decision or going over and being undecided all of a sudden because of his indecisiveness.
It was
And
so
that
good.
is the thing that people have to understand. That's why you have to watch, as they say, the company you keep.
You are the average of the 5 people you hang around, party people. I've been saying that for a long time.
Yes.
So before we end, Charlie, because I know you've got to go and I've got to go, I've got 2 things. I want you to talk about your new book that's
Yes.
coming out because I think the
Yes.
people want to hear about it. But before that, I want you to tell us what was your favorite scene in Forever, whether it was
Ooh.
Uncle Charlie's scene or not. What was
Uh,
your favorite scene and why? And if
I
you've
think,
already said it, then say I've already said it. But
yeah,
let's keep it brief and powerful.
no, I think I've already said it, and it was the
Which
derailment,
one?
the one when the dad came in Keisha's life. I mean, came back and basically asked Justin the poignant questions of who you are. I want to know more about you because I want to make sure you don't derail my daughter from her goal because I know she has a goal. And I want you, if you're going to match up to my daughter, you need to have a plan too. And if he had had a plan and if he knew, he would have been like, okay, I get this. But he went along with it. He was not going to, he didn't want to, he didn't say, you can't hang out with this guy. But what he did
He
say to her,
exposed.
what he did say to her was, watch him because he's not as determined and self-aware as you are. You don't want him to throw him, you don't want him to throw you off your game. And that's the advice you have to understand. Sometimes you have to step in the gap and understand that because a kid at that time was so impressionable, anybody can come in with something that looks good and shiny, and we want to go forward. Don't go after the
100%.
shiny things. Don't go after the shiny things.
Uh,
So that was that. What was your other question? What was
your
the last?
book. Let's tell
Oh,
the
my
people
book.
about your book.
Oh, yes, the book. So the book is coming out in the summer. I hope to launch the book and the Vineyard. Right now,
Exciting.
just the working title is "Loving the Way You Live." Finding your purpose in your in base. This is not the title, but it is. It will have something to do with love the way you live because that's my tagline. Finding yourself in your place in your third quarter of your life, and what I mean by that is what I've noticed by all the people that I come in contact with and what I see is that that derailment that happen that can happen to you in life or the things that you do in life because of others, i.e., get married when you really didn't want to, but you did for your parents and it wasn't the right person, or have kids when you really didn't want to, and but you did it anyway, or you took the job and you were the SVP and your phone was ringing and you're not the SVP anymore and you don't know who you are as a person. You are people who are trying to reinvent themselves and find their purpose at a latter part in their life so they can love the way they live. And so what I've come across is I put that together through using the 8 dimensions of wellness. And the 8 dimensions of wellness are like environmental wellness, intellectual wellness, financial wellness, social wellness, emotional wellness, just to occupational wellness, just to name 7 of the 8. And I noticed that when I was going through my life and going through therapy and going to men's group in the church, that I was angry and I was upset and I was mad and trying to figure all of that out about life. And why was that? A lot of us are walking around here with trauma and we don't even know we have the trauma. And I feel as though everybody needs to be on someone's couch talking about your past and your present and where you want to go. So I want to be an outlet for people our generation and above, and even younger, because what I feel is though there are not enough people sharing the wisdom with us.
I'm excited for the book. That's going to be fun
Yes.
and
Yes.
juicy, I'm sure.
Oh, it's good. It's
So
cathartic. It'll make you cry.
when are you predicting this to come out or what's your plan? What are you thinking?
July 6th, July 26th to be ready
Oh my
and done.
goodness, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, 2 months away. So we're
Party people,
looking for,
stay tuned because we're going to
yeah.
support Charlie and his new book, Uncle Charlie. And for those of you who have not met Uncle Charlie, he is lives in New York and in Atlanta, and he is also always on the Vineyard. So if you see him, please say
Yeah,
hello, and I'm sure he will drop some gems.
there you go.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
sharing.
You're welcome.
We
Love you
appreciate you. I love you
all day.
more.